It's another Thursday, everybody. Welcome to All Things Rex Worldwide. I'm so glad you're here. My guest today is Dr. Joe Vitale. He's an author, a marketing guru, a movie, TV, and radio personality. And on top of that, he's a musician. Now, he's joining me today on All Things Rex. He's got many best selling books, including The Attractor Factor, Attract Money Now, Zero Limits, and his latest release is The Miracle and Anything is Possible. Now, he's a popular leading expert on the law of attraction. You've seen him in movies like The Secret, you've seen him on virtually every TV media show network that's available from Larry King to Donnie Deutsch, The Big Idea, CNN, CNBC, CBS, ABC, Fox News, and Friends, and so much more. Featured in the movie The Secret, the New York Times, and Newsweek. And one of his most recent accomplishments includes being a self-help singer-songwriter, as seen in 2012's Rolling Stone magazine, and to date, he's released 17 albums. So Joe, I've known Joe for just about 30 years, and he's one of the most prolific, productive people that I have ever met in my life. So without any further ado, we're going to bring Joe up. And there he is, Mr. Joe Vitale. How are you, sir?
I'm with you, so I'm fantastic. I made it to Rex's show. You know you're a success when you get on Rex's show.
Well, now you've spoken truth like never before. I'm so happy to have you here.
Of course.
Really, I mean, we go back a long time.
Yeah, to the last century.
To the last century. And I look like I lived in the last century. You look like you were born this century.
Good lighting and Italian tanning. You know, it's in my pigments.
Well, there you go. There you go. Yeah, this is waspy, whatever, you know, that pale demeanor. I look like I'm Irish. Well, I am. I'm Irish and English and Scottish. So
I thought you were filming another one of your horror movies or an old dusty Western of some sort.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. No, Joe, you are one of the many people worldwide who, you know, you put out a volume of works. And since I've known you, you put out, you know, I mean, like when we first met, it was P.T. Barnum. I think, you know, you were doing and what was cool about that was so many people had forgotten how wonderful he was, but it wasn't just the fact that he was, you know, an incredible marketer and a presenter, but what you learned in learning about him that you presented to people that you know otherwise nobody would ever known or thought about.
Yeah, no, I had a blast doing that. I went through a period, especially in the 1990s, when I was researching some of the forgotten greats. And I had written a book called The 7 Lost Secrets of Success, which was about Bruce Barton, which everybody watching just went, huh, who? Right. Bruce Barton founded one of the largest advertising agencies in the world, BBDO, in 1919. And I got obsessed, and I wrote about him and wrote this book that ended up being one of the turning points in my life in terms of finally getting some success. And then I got obsessed with P.T. Barnum, and everybody thought of him as the circus guy. But I had read his autobiography, and I was in awe. The man was a genius. He was a marketing and publicity wizard. He was more than that. He was a politician. He was an entrepreneur. He was a speaker. He was a writer. He was a genius on so many levels that I had to write about him. And I ended up writing the book that you're referring to. There's a customer born every minute. And I'm still proud of that book today. It came out in 98, and I think we updated it in 2006. There's a customer born every minute, and The 7 Lost Secrets of Success. Those were early books that were about the time you and I were connecting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, you know, people misunderstand. They always think it's a sucker born every minute.
No, he never said that. Right. It was a competitor who said it during his time. And most people would understand that P.T. Barnum loved publicity. All he wanted was his name out there. So if somebody else said it and he got the credit for it, he ran with it. He didn't bother to correct people. It's like they're saying my name, Barnum, Barnum, Barnum. That's what he wanted. But no, he respected people. He loved people. He entertained people. He educated people. He gave them the Walt Disney World of the 1800s, and he charged like 25 cents. And people got to see 15,000 different artifacts and animals and shows. He went out of his way to make sure people were happy. So no, he wasn't going after suckers. He was in a world where entertainment was pulling jokes on each other and what was called back then humbugs. But no, he respected people.
That's so very cool. I want to ask you a question in just a moment, but first let me tell the viewers who are watching, especially if you're on Facebook, the Los Angeles Tribune page, you can ask questions. We've got lots of comments coming in, but if you have questions of Dr. Joe, we can certainly hopefully answer those, given if we see them in a timely way. So feel free to ask questions, leave comments, like the show, of course, share the show live, and then once it's in replay. So Joe, his contemporary, actually, Harry Houdini was
Yes.
huge. I was a huge Houdini fan from 4 or 5 years old.
Me too. Me too.
Isn't that amazing? Saw the Tony Curtis movie, and I got to meet a lot of people who knew Houdini back at the time.
Wow.
And and his wife, and I got to hang out at Clifton's Cafeteria in Los Angeles in my teen years with all these old timer magicians who had been, contemporaries that were still around. And
wow.
And but the point being is, some people, he was known as the world's greatest escape artist. Some contemporaries thought he was a pretty shabby magician.
Right.
But the one thing that he absolutely certainly was a marketer. He certainly knew how to make his name stand the test of time and to this day.
100% agree. Houdini was a showman, and actually he was a disciple of P.T. Barnum. He collected Barnum material, artifacts, books, and materials because he wanted to study the great showman, P.T. Barnum, to apply what he learned to his own enterprise. And I'm a lifetime member of the Society of American Magicians. I love Houdini. I wanted to be the next Houdini when I was like 10 years old. I had a stage name. It was Harry Excello. I was going to be Harry Excello. I used to let my brothers tie me up in the basement so that I can wiggle free. I was practicing so I can be thrown off a bridge when I'm a kid. And I remember walking across the bridge going, I don't know that I really want to do this. Wow. But I was absolutely fascinated with Houdini, inspired by Houdini. And given all of that, he was not the greatest magician. But out of the magic circle, he was the greatest marketer of magic and magic shows, which is why virtually everybody knows his name today. He made sure we knew his name. He went the extra mile to do all the publicity, the challenges, the stunts, the escapes. All of that was to get the headlines.
That's beautiful. It's truly beautiful. And you and I share that in common. My stage name for a while was Eric Golden, based on Eric Weiss and Horace Goldman, the magicians, and I took those two. I did, and the same thing, would get tied up, chained up. I got pictures of me.
I didn't know this. I didn't know we'd be talking about this. How exhilarating is it to relive those memories?
Oh, and I still read. I've made a life study of Harry Houdini, and so anything that's new that comes out or anything, and none of the movies have ever done him justice or service or anything, but it is true. And I guess I want to be careful how I say this because I don't want to put hope in the wrong way, but as a magician, he may have been inferior, but he did have a good product.
Yes.
But the point being that as a magician, being an inferior magician, but a world-class escape artist, or at least, if nothing else, everybody thought he was the world-class escape artist.
Right. Well, I think the grand lesson in all of this, Rex, is the importance of marketing.
Yes.
And I was learning that from P.T. Barnum, and I had learned it from Bruce Barton when I wrote The 7 Lost Secrets of Success, that if there is no marketing, if there is no advertising, it does not matter if you are the greatest and the most talented, nobody will know. If you are second rate, third rate even, but you do stellar marketing, you can get the crowd to come. Now, if the crowd's not pleased, they're not going to come back. So marketing, as Houdini found out, was going to get the crowd in the door. He then had to go and entertain them and make an elephant disappear or some other crazy stunt that none of them had ever seen before. And then they can go into awe and say, wow, that was amazing. And they'll come back. But the real key, the real lesson is, I don't care who's watching, whatever it is that you're doing, you've got a competitor of some sort or another. And these days, probably a lot of them. What's going to make you stand out from the crowd? Well, you do need to think about what your service is, what your value is. But we went down the road running here after P.T. Barnum, so let's learn from him. He used 10 specific techniques to make his business stand out, and every business he went into stood out. He made people that would have otherwise been broke and unknown multimillionaires because he applied these different marketing techniques. These same marketing techniques, which is why I wrote the book, There's a Customer Born Every Minute, can be used today in every walk of life. The difference is, which is better, we have technology. We can shoot it out to the masses. Back then with P.T. Barnum and even Houdini, they didn't have much more than the billboards, the posters, the papers, the challenges, and newspapers, which is what they relied on. In fact, 5 days before P.T. Barnum died, he wrote, he's on his deathbed, and he said, I owe my fame and fortune to the newspapers of the world. Says it right there, folks.
Absolutely beautiful. It is truly amazing. And they, it took forever to get from one side of the ocean to the other side of the ocean, right, by boat, and or to make a name for yourself, you had to go around and play these circuits. When Houdini was coming up, or when Barnum was doing this nickel and dime kind of right, thing, where today somebody can get on like we're doing right now and stream and have just an audience available to them. And it wasn't that many years ago where in terms of movie making or TV production, where the average person couldn't do that. You couldn't afford to do a podcast. You couldn't afford to buy raw stock for film or television. When video came along, that started to change everything. And when this thing, the phone, came along, the camera, it revolutionized everybody's ability to connect with someone else. And hopefully they're doing it in meaningful ways. And one of the beautiful things about what you teach and what you share is that you teach people how to do it in meaningful and beautiful ways.
Well, it needs to be a meaningful way. We need to add value here. We need to be able to help people, and that needs to be the focus. I think it was Zig Ziglar who had pointed out that you can get anything you want as long as you help other people get what they want. So the whole focus, our whole mindset needs to be on the others, on the customers, on the clients. When you think about it, even Barnum was thinking not of himself. He wasn't after fame and fortune for his own pockets and his own obituary write-up. He was looking to help people. He was looking to entertain them. He went out of his way to cross the planet looking for unusual animals or unusual curiosities or unusually talented or bizarre looking people and to bring them in. Why? Because he wanted to satisfy the people who were paying him. So his eye was on the person who had the money who was going to buy a ticket. Houdini was the same way. Houdini didn't stand on stage and just simply do a card trick that anybody could have done in any corner magic shop. He had to think bigger. Why did he think bigger? Because he was thinking of the people who were buying a ticket to see him. He needed to please them. In one of my early books, it was on copywriting. Hypnotic Writing was the title of it. I said one of the key concepts in copywriting is the key concept in business. It's a key concept in all marketing is this phrase: get out of your ego and get into your customers or your clients or your prospects' ego. Meaning, don't think so much about you, think about them. If you really focus on them and how you can help them, how you can deliver to them, how you can give them value, what you want will come to you. But if your focus is only on you, you're got to be shooting yourself in the foot, if not the head.
Well, what also is really interesting about that, and what you bring up is that, I, not every day, but probably every week, and certainly every month, and I'm sure you do too, meet people who say, yeah, I don't like the way they sell that, or I don't like this, or I don't like that, and they're in business and they're providing things, they're offering it, but they won't do what's necessary in order to be good at what they do because they don't like something, as opposed to going, what does the client, the customer, the other person want? What is it that they need, and how can I better serve them? Because
Mm.
some people don't want to be sold, but they want to buy.
Yes, definitely.
So if you say I don't like to sell, well, how about saying I make things available so that they can buy?
I have a twist on that, Rex, and I forget which one of my books I wrote about it. It could have been the Barnum book, or it could have been a book I wrote called Buying Trances. At any rate, the whole idea was I had heard, just like you did, especially when I was living in Houston and I was teaching adult education classes on writing and marketing and publicity. And I would hear from so many people who say, I want people to buy my stuff, but I don't like selling. It just doesn't feel good to me. And I heard it so many times, it started to bother me. And then I went a little deeper to unpack it, and I realized they don't understand what I'm doing when I talk about one of my books is sharing my passion. I might be considered selling because I'm talking about one of my books, just like I was talking about my Barnum book. Can you not feel my passion for it? When I was talking about my 7 Lost Secrets book on Bruce Barton, can you not feel the passion and the heart and the true love that is there for that man and that book, or Barnum and that book? What I tell people is, if you don't love your product or service, you better get another product or service, because you need to be in love with your product or service and then share your love with the people who would most welcome hearing about it. My favorite story is, I was getting massages decades ago, and the woman normally gave me a massage and never said a word, which was my preference. I just wanted to rest. But one night she had seen a movie and she could not stop talking about the movie. And what I realized was this woman was actually selling, but she would never call it selling. She was sharing her love for something she had seen the night before. It did intrigue me. I did go see the movie, and ended up telling other people about the movie. The movie was What the Bleep Do We Know, in case anybody's wondering. And that was the movie that really kind of paved the way for The Secret to come out shortly afterwards. But the point is, when you love your product or service, you naturally talk about it to people. That's called selling in some circles, but I call it sharing, to take away the emotional pain or connotation that a lot of people drag in. I don't sell a damn thing. I share hundreds of products, 80 some books, all the movies I'm in, my music, my TV show, all of this stuff. I get excited about it and I share. If you don't want to hear it, somebody will turn and walk away. But I'm hoping that they actually feel the bug enough to go, well, where do I get your book? Where do I get your music? Where do I blah, blah, blah.
Well, it just makes sense. I mean, part of being connected on the planet is saying, "Hey, I had this really great experience. Come too. I went to a party last night. I went to a dinner. This restaurant is really cool." I mean, sharing the things you're excited about, and
That's
if
it.
you're excited about your product or service, it only makes sense that enthusiasm, that legitimate, honest passion and enthusiasm would carry you.
Yeah.
Um, that is
And the restaurant's a good example. When we go someplace and we really love it, like you're in Beverly Hills or somewhere in there, one of my favorite restaurants in the whole world is there, the Stinking Rose.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
The Stinking Rose is garlic themed. Everything has garlic martinis, garlic ice cream. They have a chicken breast with 16 cloves of garlic. I love garlic. Garlic is what keeps me young. I don't know if I'm young. It's keeping me alive. But my whole point is, I just gave a plug to the Stinking Rose, but I wasn't doing it from a marketing standpoint. I'm doing it like, next time I'm out there, I'm going to tell Rex, let's meet at the Stinking Rose. I want to go over there.
No, absolutely, absolutely. That's so beautiful. I want to give a quick shout out to Straw Weissman and his lovely partner, wife Debbie, who are both thought leaders and responsible for producing What the Bleep Do You Know? So,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
yeah,
Nice.
no, they've been friends, and the fact that they're good people, and Debbie is. I've been on her show, and I think she's been on mine, not on this one, but she's been on other things that we've done. But I know I've been on hers. That's awesome. Now, Joe, let's let's take this just a step or two further, because the same thing. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to your TV show and
Mm.
to the other things that you do. We have it. It's not right there now, but that's okay. It's scrolling otherwise, so that people can look, can see it and find it. And so before I ask you my question, it's not there at the moment, but it will
Okay.
be. It will be. But the is when and how and where can they see it?
Oh, thank you for the question. See, I'm very excited about it, so I get to talk about it. The show is called Zero Limits Living. It's airing every Friday. It is on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, Lux TV app, 1,000 different podcasts, including Spotify and a bunch of other ones. I put up a website just to make it easy for people to find it in one place on YouTube. And so this is Zero Limits Living TV.com, and it is now below Zero Limits Living TV.com. I'm putting all the episodes there. What I'm doing, Rex, is probably a little bit like what you're doing, is I'm looking for the people that inspire me. I'm looking for the people I'm impressed with, and I'm picking their brains because I want to know some of the things they know. I want to know their stories. I want to know their secrets. Most of them have written books. I already read their book. I want to know what they didn't put in their book. I want to know the stuff they left out because they kept it to themselves. Also, I'm doing the show because I'm questioning. It's a research project. I'm questioning, are there really any limits? Are there really any limits? This is why the show is called Zero Limits Living. I wrote a book called Zero Limits, so it kind of all started there. But I'm also wondering, I tend to believe that the only limits we have are the limits that we believe in. They're mental constructs, and that when we actually question them, we can dismantle them, we can erase them, we can replace them, we can actually have a completely dramatically different life. So my show is every Friday, and designed to inspire people. Zero Limits Living.
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, I agree with you completely. Is finding those people. You and I both have had the opportunity to stand in front of room full of people and have people fly in from around the world and be with us or meet somewhere. And one of the things I've always said in each of the places, and I know you feel this, is that I don't want to be the smartest person in the room.
Right.
And I rarely am, if truth be told. I rarely am. But I get to stand there and people will want to learn something from me. But I have, whether it's 5 people, 50 people, or 500 people, who do all these incredible things.
Yeah.
From well-known people to not so well-known people, but who are talented, resourceful, and have opportunities, have experience, and who've lived their life that I could never know or do. And I get to be there and serve them. And if I'm lucky, I get to hang out with them and share meals with them and sit out and in the lobby and talk and stuff like that. So it's just a beautiful, beautiful world of exchange because
Yeah.
there's so much there and so many people there. I mean, I look back, the number of people you've written about or the number of people who have paved the way so you can do what you do or you and I can do what we do. And it's just so beautiful. It's so amazing that and some people will think, I know everything and I know nothing.
My God, that statement is stopping so many people from going for their dreams and achieving them. Rex, I read every single day. Every single day. There are, if I can show you, there's like 30 books on the floor right beside me, and there's 3 stacks of books over there. And the books behind me, that's not a green screen or some sort of camera trick. Those are real books. Same on that wall, then the garage is full of books. I've also given away boxes and boxes of books. I've sold some collections. I am devouring all of this material, still am at my age, at my whatever you would call my rate of success. I'm still doing it. Why? I don't know it all. I will never know it all. It's impossible to know it all. But I'm so curious. I want to know what the next trick is, the technique, the hack, the story, the inspiring whatever, so that I can move ahead down the road a little bit to see what else I can achieve. And then by extension, I turn around and I help everybody else. I get to tell them, it's like, well, I just found this out. I tried it out. It worked. Now you go try it out. And I'll put it in a book or I'll talk about it on the TV show or write a song. I don't know. But I don't know it all. My God, who does?
Oh, that's beautiful. That's truly beautiful. Just something that not too many people know. My son didn't speak until he was about 3 years old. And, there's people who understand that that's not a thing to be concerned about, that children have varied ages that they fall within a range of, 5, 6, 7 years of development. But once he started speaking, you couldn't shut him up. And he refused to read. He didn't want to read, and he hated reading. And we made him take a remedial reading course when he was, I don't know, 6 or 7 or something like that. And he hated it. And then he discovered reading. And boom, it was like couldn't shut him up, and he wouldn't stop reading.
He's off and running. Well,
So
there's no shortage of books out there.
no, and it's true. And what I like is I like to take a topic. I think like you would, you would take, 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 books around a subject, and some people call it syntopic reading because you're taking it in from all these different sources and kind of compiling it, in your brain, kind of like this
Mhm.
download where it's just being dumped in, and then you can take it and run with it, in other words, from the varied viewpoints. I try never to read just one thing from one particular person for
Right.
that very reason.
And I do the very same thing. In fact, one book that I wrote that comes to mind was called The Secret Prayer. I got fascinated with praying and prayers. It's part of my metaphysical side. I'm very interested, and I wanted to know, what do any of the prayers work? And if there is a prayer that worked, what is it? And then I want to try it, I want to test it, and I want to share it. And in order for me to discover the secret prayer, I had to go and read a lot of books. There was a tremendous amount of books. Some of them are repeating the same thing. Go say the Lord's Prayer. Some of them give you different techniques. Some of them, the science is trying to find out which prayers work, which ones don't work. Some of the scientific studies came back and said it almost doesn't matter what the prayer is, but your intent is what actually makes the difference and whether you get an answer or not. And then you start speculating, well, who are you praying to? Are you praying to yourself? Are you praying to a God? Are you praying to a universe? Are you praying to aliens? Oh, what is going on? And I did as you were suggesting, Rex. I read out of print books, in print books, and anything and everything I could find. When I was all done, I wrote my own book with a lot of research cited in it that said there's actually a secret prayer and there's 3 steps to it. And I put all of that into the book. And in fact, since somebody's going to ask, what is the secret prayer? I will quickly say and save everybody going to buy the secret prayer, which is on Amazon if you want to hear the whole story. The very first step is gratitude. Most people don't start a prayer with gratitude. They start it with gimme, gimme, gimme. Prayers for most people are begging statements. So we start with gratitude. And then what we next, the second step of it is to ask for what it is that you want, and ask in such a way that it benefits other people. Jose Silva, who created the Silva mind control long, long ago, said a goal that you come up with should influence you and maybe about 3 other people. This helps ensure that it gets out of your ego. So first step, gratitude. Thankful for everything you already have. Second step, what are you asking for that also influences other people? And the third step is take inspired action. Don't rely on the universe to bring it to you. What you want will be co-created. So the third step is get off your butt and go do something in the direction of your praying. But I did all the research to come up with the secret prayer.
That is wonderful. That's beautiful. And sadly, I would say this, not anything related to you, but like, you can find that formula in the Our Father. The very first thing is hallowed be thy name. It starts with praise and gratitude. And then it says, give us this day our daily bread and forgive us as we forgive those who trespass against it and lead us not into temptation. But I mean, so it's almost right there. And yet what happened, instead of understanding it the way you've just spoken about it and said, here are the steps, people recite the prayer as if those are the magic words.
Right. And that's how I was brought up. It's just
Yeah.
recite the prayer. And you recite it enough and think, I'm not actually getting what I want. So maybe this isn't working. And then after doing something like all the research, I find out, I have to dissect it and genuinely come from gratitude, not just repeat like a parrot the words, but actually look around and go, what am I grateful for? What about my life? What about everything I have? What about how there's a life force keeping my heart going and my brain going and my eyes going, and there's air and all these things I don't pay for. When I move in the direction of that gratitude, now I'm sincerely thankful.
That is beautiful. Truly, truly beautiful. Joe, that is a incredible, and I have to take a break right now. But here's the thing.
No, don't leave. I'm on a roll.
We come back.
I got more to say.
We'll come back on the other side. I do want to encourage the viewers who are watching live to continue to leave comments, continue to ask questions if you have them, and hit the like button on either side. Send the video out, share it with other people, both here and in live and in replay, and help other people to discover, if they don't already know Joe or his works or the principles that we're discussing, share it so that they too can benefit in that regard. and so that they know about his TV show. And I want to thank Shmika Cole, who's backstage running this for us, and the Los Angeles Tribune for this platform. And so, without any further ado, let's have a word from the Los Angeles Tribune, and then I'll be right back with Dr. Joe Vitale. Thank you.
Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
And we're back. Oh, thank you for hanging in there. And thank you, everybody, for hanging in. I'm back with Dr. Joe Vitale. You know, we've known each other 30 years, and it's only recently that we've actually shared some platforms, and I got you on my show. And so this is exciting. This is a good time. And I'm really thrilled to have you here. Since we were talking this way, and I do want to move this session along, but you're talking about gratitude. We're talking about marketing. We're talking about what people do in terms of taking action in order to help themselves, and about not having limits, you know, or that the only limits that people might have are the ones that they have in their head. And you're also known for, you know, law of attraction and secret and so many things. Would it be fair to say, and I hate to preface the question that way because I don't want to preface it with do you agree with this? What say you in terms of people and their thinking in terms of, you know, trying to manifest stuff with the law of attraction, or focusing on, you know, I don't have any money, I don't know what I'm going to do, and how they can get to the other side of that.
What was the first part of the question? I missed it.
It was in terms. You want me to go all the way back to the beginning?
What is your name again?
You're in Texas, right?
Right. I think I am anyway.
Well, so let me preface it with this. You've written 80 some books. You've starred in these movies. You've produced 17 musical albums. You bend nails. You rip up phone books. You know, you did the muscle stuff. You know, you have accomplished a lot. And then there are people who go, you know, I can't make anything happen.
Oh.
And so, because you're known for the law of attraction and for manifesting and the things that we're talking about, or Houdini being a marketer, you know, it wasn't Houdini, whether he was great as a magician or not, it didn't prevent him from going, I'm the greatest, like Muhammad Ali, I'm the greatest, you know.
Right.
You know? And yet some people stop. They have their limits. They don't get to that zero limit thing. What suggestions or advice or
okay. That's actually a brilliant question, $1 million question, and a question that almost needs a seminar to answer. Yes. But I'm going to give a top level answer to it because I truly want to help. The very first thing is you have to have an intention, a goal, an outcome, a vision. What do you want? And I think secretly each of us knows what we want. We usually don't admit it to ourselves because then we have to rationalize why we aren't taking any action, or we have to come up with excuses. But we know what it is. And I think that's the first step, is to admit, this is what I want. I know I was homeless. I was in poverty. And during all that time, I knew I wanted to be an author. I wanted to write books that at that point, I wanted them to make people happy. So I wanted to write books to uplift people. And here I was, profoundly unhappy and struggling. But that was the goal. The second thing was I took action. I was writing during the times when I had nothing. There was no computer back then. I had a $5 punch typewriter. I mean, you had to punch it. And I type with 2 fingers. So I'm punching this to get my manuscripts done. And then back then, again, there's no internet. You have to stuff it in manila envelopes, you know, put postage on it, and put postage on the inside so they can send your manuscript back, then send it off and wait half a year before you get the devastating news that, hey, you're rejected again, and then go through the self-therapy of it. So the very first goal is, or first step is know what you want. The second step is you have to move towards what you want. Start taking action. The third thing is, and here's something I found out. And I found out because somebody asked me recently on a show, what's the one thing that always works? It's similar to your question. What's the one thing that always works? Out of everything you've done, everything you read, what always works? Yeah, I'll tell you what always works. It's the third thing: persistence. If you maintain your foot on the gas pedal, and even if you're just crawling forward, but you're going forward, sooner or later you're hitting your goal, or you're getting close to it, or you're getting something better than it. I found out that as long as I kept getting up, homeless, poverty, struggle. My first book was 1984. Great. I didn't have another book for 10 years. 10 years. But I was writing, I was trying, I was submitting. I'll give a bonus tip. So those are the first key things right there. The bonus tip is surround yourself with positive material and positive people. What that means is, in the early days, there was no Amazon. And when Amazon came around, I still didn't have the money for it. You go to the public library. All of it's free. All of it's free. I went to the public library and devoured the self-help book, the practical psychology book, the philosophy books, the early metaphysical books, sat on the floor when I was homeless in the Dallas Public Library reading books because I was feeding my mind. I was kind of, in a way, doing positive brainwashing to get myself to think in a positive way to go forward. The other part of that, I said, surround yourself with positive material, which is, what are you watching on TV? What are you listening to? Blah, blah, blah. The next part of it is, who are you being with? As long as I was homeless and stayed with homeless people, I was got to remain homeless. This is the nature of a mastermind, where you want to be in a group of people that have a few people in it a little bit more successful, and as Rex said, smarter than you, to help elevate you. And thanks to the internet and Facebook, you can find groups for anything, and you can create a group. So Rex, that is my turbocharged, really condensed Cliff Notes version of what to do right now. And I guess, yeah, that's a mouthful, but there it is.
I love that. I love it. It's powerful. I would follow up with a couple of points. One is, Muhammad Ali always said, I hated training. There were days I never wanted to get out there and train, but I knew if I wanted to be a world champion, I needed to get my butt off the couch and get out there and train.
Yeah.
And that, knowing what you want and prioritizing what you want so that you persist in your commitment to that. I mean, people who are Olympic athletes don't just happen to become an Olympic athlete.
Right.
They condition themselves. They pursue it. And you know what? It's amateur. I mean, that's the thing that blows me away. They have to invest in themselves and find sponsors or whatever who are willing to foot the bill so they can get the top coaches, the top mentors, the top gyms to so that they can train. And there are going to be somebody out there who says, I can't afford it. Well, what you just said, I want to do this seminar, but I can't do it. I want to get that, but I can't do it. What you just said is the library's free. There's tons of free stuff. What you do with the free stuff is not expect that everything should be free, but take the free stuff and apply it, as you would say, persist at it until you can afford to do the things that you want to do, and then make those things happen. Don't stop. I love that, because don't stop. Don't put the limit that I can't do it because I don't have enough.
And sometimes people will say they can't go anywhere, they can't do anything because of their environment or where they live. And I remember seeing a small clip with the actor Morgan Freeman, and he had said, the bus leaves town every day, man. And I never forgot it. I thought, I got chills and I laughed at the same time. He was just telling you, yeah, it might suck where you're at, and you might have to struggle to come up with the dollar. I don't know what it costs to be on a bus these days, but to get on a bus, but you can leave. You can leave. You can change your environment. So I think, and I understand that people can come up with all kind of beliefs and reasons and excuses not to go for their dreams. And I say I understand because I did the same thing. But at the same time, there's so much evidence that anything is possible. There's so many people that have achieved greatness when there was no evidence for it. In fact, when I tell my own story, I say, when I was writing, there was nobody around me encouraging me. And there was no evidence around me that I'd ever amount to anything. There was nothing that said, hey, Joe's going to be a published author one day. Nothing. I had to do it on my own. And you had mentioned Muhammad Ali, and I love that he started calling himself the greatest before anybody thought he was great. I'm not even sure he thought he was the greatest when he first started saying it, but it became a affirmation for himself. Then it became a publicity statement, a proclamation for the world around him. So I don't know. I can't imagine anybody watching this that could not achieve their dreams, because what's available, especially with the internet and all the information and YouTube and Google and everything that you can find out for nothing, that you can get the information you need, and then you have to, of course, apply it. And that's what needs to be done, the self-motivation to get up and move forward. I can't imagine that anybody with a dream that's watching this, watching us, can't achieve it.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I also, going back to Muhammad Ali, I also think that he was savvy enough, or somehow it dawned on him at some place that, there are a lot of boxers, and there've been a lot of boxers, but there ain't nobody who stings like a butterfly, stings like a bee and flies like a butterfly. I mean, in other words, he was a showman, like
Yes.
Barnum or like Houdini. He knew how to market who he was. He got a hook. He knew that, boxing is one thing, but there's entertainment, and if I do my foot shuffle and I do my little dance and I start quoting poetry and I do all this stuff, that he would draw all this attention to himself. And I think a lot of people, it's not I mean, and yet from all accounts of people who knew him, he was a very gracious human being,
Right.
and a very, and he was a conscientious objector, and he was a nonviolent, that kind of. So
And you may not have known that he was also an amateur magician.
yes.
I have an autographed photo of him because at some point I had invented a card trick and I sent it to him. And
Oh,
to thank me, he wrote back and, gave me his autographed picture, which I still have today.
oh, that's beautiful. That's truly beautiful. I wrote Groucho Marx once and said, I want to put all your stuff in a movie, and will you send me all your screenplays? And he said, I'm sorry, I can't, honor that request, but I'm glad that you're thinking that way. And
Nice.
so I was
Nice.
very proud to get a Groucho Marx letter.
Of course. I was a big fan of his too,
So
growing up.
but again, had you wouldn't have an autographed photo of Muhammad Ali. I would have the Groucho Marx letter if it wasn't that we wanted something, we reached out, took the action, and went forward with it.
But I was doing that when I was a kid. We talked about Houdini. Houdini, of course, was gone by the time I was interested in him. But people who knew him, John Mulholland was an editor of Fink's magazine. He was a professional musician. He was elderly when I knew of him. He had known Houdini personally and worked with him.
Wow.
I wrote to him when I was 15 years old. And I said, I was thinking of becoming a full-time magician. Can you give me some advice? He sent back a 2-page, single-spaced, typewritten letter spelling out all I would learn and all I would struggle with, but what a life I would have. And in later years, it was republished in Magic Magazine, like, look at this historic document from John Mulholland. Well, I was a kid, and I wrote to him when I thought, I don't think you knew this part, I wanted to be heavyweight boxing champion of the world when I was like 17 or 18 years old. And of course, at that point, I had never actually met a real heavyweight boxing champion. And I wrote to Jack Dempsey, who was one of the early greats. He had Jack Dempsey's restaurant. I think the restaurant's still there. He's long gone. He wrote back, sent me an autographed picture, which I still have today. I think these stories are illustrating something, Rex, in terms of when we want something, especially when it's a natural, heartfelt desire. Like I wanted Houdini, but I couldn't get him. I got John Mulholland. I wanted a heavyweight boxing champion, Jack Dempsey. When you think about it today, this is history. The man was writing back to me. I wanted something very purely, and I took action for it. Took action and got it.
It's beautiful, yeah. And I wrote Annette Funicello, I think, every week of my life when I was like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. But this is a point that shouldn't be lost on people. It's the naivete or the innocence of a child to go, I want this, I'm going to do that. I'm going to write them. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the champion boxer. I'm going to be a champion magician. And you reach out to the people who can help you get there, and you take that action. And yet many adults will go, I can't do that. I couldn't, so beautiful shares, Joe. This is really wonderful.
Oh, I didn't know we'd go in any of these directions, but it's great to have these memories and great to have these stories. And I hope everybody watching are really getting the teaching lessons that are within the stories themselves, because there's some real gold here. In my case, I don't always get to talk, or rarely get to talk about these particular stories. Jack Dempsey, Houdini, Barnum. You even mentioned me bending nails and horseshoes. Most people don't even know that. For you followed me, and we've known each other for decades, so you would know.
No, it is beautiful, and you know what? It's amazing that in the decades we've known each other, that I too, 15 through 17, somewhere in there, wanted to box and go Golden Gloves, and I would box and was training, and then I got braces, and my parents wouldn't let me box. They're like, you can't, you get your braces off, you're over. You're not going to get your teeth knocked out. So, but
Well,
yeah.
you know, in later years, I ended up meeting Floyd Patterson, who was the youngest heavyweight boxing champion in the world until Mike Tyson. And in later years, I was on the same stage with Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, Mike Tyson, all he has to do is breathe on me, and I'm going to fold. One punch would have turned me to dust. It was a very good decision to say, I'm not going to be heavyweight boxing champion of the world. I'm going to be an author.
I'll write about it, but I ain't going to get the power.
I didn't really enjoy being punched in the face.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing I did learn from boxing. I didn't like getting hit.
Right.
You know, some people, I mean, and when I was pursuing acting, 18, 19, 20 years old, things like that, I would meet boxers and professional boxers who were also pursuing acting or whatever. They weren't name boxers or anything like that. But and I'm like, really, why you really like getting punished, right? I mean, you like getting hurt. I can't, I learned pretty early on that I didn't like feeling the next day banged and bruised.
Right.
didn't take rocket science for me to understand that hurts.
Yeah, there were immediate signals coming from your physical environment, your body.
So, again, I just want to remind people to continue to share the show. Joe has a show there. What does it say? I would love to hear more about Bruce Barton from Dr. Joe, and his research on Barton led to Lifetime Achievement Award. So yes, that's right. You got a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Tribune. And that's Mo Rock, CEO and publisher of the Tribune. So
I did. That was one of the highlights of my career. I'm still, thank you again for that. I have the plaque on the wall over there, and I look at it virtually every day because I pass it, and it's a proud moment for me. And as what Mo had pointed out in particular is that it was for my research on Bruce Barton in my book, The 7 Lost Secrets of Success. And that was a book I wrote because I was on a mission. I had heard about Bruce Barton, and I had heard that he had been a congressman, a best-selling author, a copywriter, an advertising genius. He co-founded BBDO, the largest advertising agency in the world, for the longest time, and he founded it in 1919. He was a business celebrity. And I kept thinking, what happened? Where'd he go? What happened to his career? What happened to him? And I actually went on a mission. And during that time of the mission, I was broke. I was unknown. I had had a book published 10 years previously, but it came and went. It got its own sad story. So I'm on this mission when I'm broke, and I'm going to the library. I'm doing the interlibrary loan thing, which is a wonderful thing. They don't have the book. They go to another library that has the book. They ship it to the first library. I go get it. I actually went to Wisconsin, which is where Bruce Barton's, after his death, all of his papers went there. And for me to go to the University of Wisconsin, it was a bus out of Texas because I was still broke. I'm broke and unknown and trying to make a name for myself and trying to get published and obsessed with this ghost named Bruce Barton that nobody knows anything about. When I drop his name, they're like, so what? Who is he? He's gone. He died in 1967. But I do all this research, and I keep trying to figure out why am I even doing the research, because I didn't know it would be a book at first. I was just kind of solving a mystery. And as I did the research, I realized this guy had principles of success. And I ended up calling the book, the project, The 7 Lost Secrets of Success. And the subtitle was something like The Forgotten Genius Bruce Barton's advertising, copywriting, publicity secrets. I forget all of it. And anyway, I found a guy who wanted to be a publisher. So I want to be a published author. He wants to be a publisher. We work out a handshake deal. We bring the book out, and we're kind of limping along. Again, there's no internet at that time, or it might just be being born. I think this is 92. And I go to conventions, like there was a Republican National Convention in Houston. We got a booth there because Bruce Barton had been a Republican during his heyday in the 1920s. And I figured, well, it seems like it's some sort of logical connection. A few people bought the book, but the turning point was one of the people who bought the book had a multi-level marketing program. He loved the book. He found it inspiring, and he bought 19,000 copies of the book. He bought it for everybody in his business. And then I went on a couple radio shows, and again, I wasn't selling my book. I was sharing what we were talking about earlier. I'd go on, and just like I am now, I gush. I just guess, oh, Bruce Barton, he was this genius. He wrote these ads. He invented Betty Crocker, and he wrote the Man Nobody Knows, which was a 1925 bestseller, still in print today. And I'd go on and on and on like that. I remember I was doing a book signing after that radio show in Houston, and a group of business people had been to a convention. They had been in their car listening to the show, leaving town. They turned around, came to the autograph party, came to me and said they wanted my book. And I remember other times where I'd written a sales letter for the 7 Lost Secrets of Success. Again, my enthusiasm, my sincerity, my passion was just infused in that letter. And I didn't have to think about hypnotic writing. I was just like, you got to pay attention. And I remember one guy at the Republican convention came up, and I handed him the letter, and he was bored. And was like, oh, it's a sales pitch. And he walked away. He came back, completely different man. His eyes were alive, big smile on his face, and he says, this letter is fantastic. Where's your book? And so the 7 Lost Secrets of Success was a turning point. It was a pivot moment in my career because people started to notice me and notice the book, but also it brought back to life Bruce Barton. He had been forgotten since like the 1930s. He was dead in 1967. A ghost to everybody in the world if they thought of him at all. And here I was bringing him back to life, giving him true acknowledgement, paying homage to him, and at the same time, sharing his techniques. I mean, thank you. The Lifetime Achievement Award, Mo, I'm still beyond grateful.
Well, that's so beautiful. And, around the corner, I have that book and many of the books, that you've written. I can't say I have all 80 of them, but I've got a lot of them.
I don't have all 80 of them myself. Some of them are gone.
I hear you. I have 2 questions. I know we're going to get short on time here.
Oh, say it isn't so.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask you, one, because he passed away recently, was Bob Proctor, and
yeah.
And you and I and Mo and Dora Evans and a number of people, Brian Tracy and Bob, got together to honor Dennis Waitley a while back. But Bob had passed away, and you had met Bob early on, correct? I mean, quite.
Yeah. Bob single-handedly gave me a jump start in a new direction in my career. I was beginning to make a name for myself as a marketer because of the 7 Lost Secrets of Success book and my Barnum book, and people were taking notice of that. And I'd come out with an audio program called The Power of Outrageous Marketing with Nightingale Conant. So the marketing copywriting side of me was there, but I still had a secret side to my life. And that was the metaphysical side, the law of attraction side, the mystic side. And I didn't like sharing it in public, especially as my career was starting to take off. I thought people are going to judge me. People are going to not want to work with me. I'll end up being the woo-woo guy. And I remember Bob Proctor wanted to meet me because of the marketing stuff. And he invited me to go to a seminar in Denver. I went to it. It was The Science of Getting Rich. And I gave him a copy of a spiritual book I had written. And I thought, well, nobody else has it. Maybe he'd like it. I want to give him a gift because he's given me the gift. And it's a spiritually oriented book. It was called Spiritual Marketing. And well, first of all, I miss Bob. He's influenced me in lots of ways. But that profound moment was when he got on stage. And he said, we have a celebrity in the audience, and I wasn't a celebrity, but he said, Joe Vitale is here. He's written a lot of books, and he has a new book, and everybody here is going to want it. And he said it's called Spiritual Marketing. And I felt the hush go through the room, and a shiver went up my spine because I thought, I wasn't going to publish that book. I was afraid. And there was a publisher who came up and said, I'll publish your book. I'm like, you haven't even read it. He said, Bob read it. Bob already sold the crowd. There's 300 people who want your book. Long story short is we did publish the book because of Bob, and he wrote the introduction to it. The timing was such that the New York Times was doing a story on little known books that were getting under the radar attention. They featured me in spiritual marketing, and it became one of my first Amazon bestsellers. And this is Amazon all categories. Amazon didn't have all kinds of categories back then, but it was the #1 bestseller in the top category. And then a big publisher comes to me and says, we want to publish your book, but we want to retitle it. And I struggled with it a little bit, but I remember being at a restaurant and I just leaned over to the table of strangers and I said, hey, I wrote a book called Spiritual Marketing. What do you think that means? It's marketing for churches. No, it isn't. So I got to change the title. Changed it to The Attractor Factor. The Attractor Factor is hands down my most popular self-improvement book. And to put the cherry on top, The Attractor Factor is what Rhonda Byrne read, called me and said, I'm doing a movie on the law of attraction. I read your Attractor Factor book. I'd like you to be in my movie. And of course, being in the movie, again, changed my career. But it was Bob Proctor. He was the one who hit the first domino that knocked it down for everything else to come into being. And I went to Peru. The largest live audience I ever spoke at was 20,000 people in Lima, Peru. Me and Bob Proctor were the only speakers. Wow. One of the greatest I got chills and tears in my eyes all at the same time. One of the highlights of my life was being on stage with Bob, knowing that there's 20,000 people here that came to see us.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, and I remember when you came out with spiritual marketing. I remember that. It went from hypnotic marketing to spiritual marketing to Attractor Factor. It's just so beautiful, and for Bob to have done that for you. But we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that it was your intention. You'd already sold 19,000 books, and Bob, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, in other words, think all of this, but I mean, for those listening, what you started and what you attracted, what you created, included Bob Proctor, who could then say, hey, here's the book you're going to want, and end up with you and Bob on a platform in Peru. Truly, truly wonderful.
I think the lesson, or one of many lessons here, if I have time to say this, Rex, when I was in Thailand, they asked me to speak spontaneously, and which I hated because I had no time to think. I didn't know what they wanted or anything, and the media is there and all this other stuff. And I got on stage and just started talking about the side benefits that come from going for your dream. And what I pointed out was all I ever wanted once I gave up being Houdini was to be an author. I wanted to be a published author. As I pursued that passion with sincerity, with persistence, with a force of love, as a sense of mission, other things started to happen. Connections would happen. Like when I wrote the 7 Lost Secrets of Success and I stumbled across a guy who wants to be a publisher when I needed a publisher, or when I come out with spiritual marketing and I give it to Bob Proctor and he stands on stage and says something I never knew and couldn't script and couldn't create a strategy to make happen, and it happens. And then that ends up causing the book to be retitled, putting me into the movie The Secret. The Secret leads to all kinds of doors and windows opening up, going on Larry King, all these things. I never once asked for those. I asked to be an author. And my point is when you go for your primary dream and you do it with sincerity and your drive and persistence and purpose and passion and love, all these other things get swept up. It's like you are a rocket going in one particular direction, and energy forces, people, opportunities, other things, they all come gravitating towards you because you are the force of energy. I've often told people when they would say, what's the secret to your success? I would say, I've just followed my enthusiasms. Whatever gets me excited, I follow it, never knowing what's going to be the payday and what's going to be nothing, but I follow it anyway.
That's beautiful too, and I want to come back to something, but I also want to point out that when you say my enthusiasm, it's the energy that you come. I mean, it's not, oh, I got to do this and I've got to struggle and it's hard work and I'm never, and you don't know what I'm doing. It's the joy, the enthusiasm, the gratitude that you live with, the high vibe that you live with and exude. But on top of that, which you've pointed out, a phrase that you well know. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but the idea that, with knowing your clear purpose and having that intention and following that with the passion of your heart, that the universe really does conspire
Yes.
to help you
Yes.
and works to bring this about for you. And you exemplified that with so many different opportunities that came your way as a result of you following your heart.
And that's true. There's so many other things we can talk about if we had more time. When I became a musician, it was just me with an idea, stating an intention. I had no idea. In fact, I was full of self-doubts about doing this because it was on my bucket list. And I didn't decide to be a musician until I was 60 years old, which is 8.5 years ago at this point. But a whole lot of things came together, including me putting together what I now call the Band of Legends. And they are legends. I'm not the legend. I'm the green guy who had no experience in music, no training in music. But my drummer has the same name as me, Joe Vitale. He's Joe Walsh's drummer. He's played for Neil Young. He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. My bass player, Glenn Fukunaga, is playing for the Dixie Chicks and a whole bunch of names, Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin. These guys, and Daniel Barrett, co-author, friend, producer, they are the Band of Legends. But they got swept up in my vortex. I didn't intend that. I intended to be a musician and to go create music because it would be fun to do so. I ended up calling myself a self-help singer-songwriter because when I did a little research, I found out there's 3,000 new albums every single week. I'll drown in the competition if I don't stand out. So I just looked Barnum-like and Houdini-like at my own career and figured a tangent but relevant and logical connection would be, I am a self-help author. How come I can't be a self-help singer-songwriter and be the very first one? So there's all kind of stories I can bring up about other areas, the strongman stuff, learning how to bend nails and horseshoes. There is no feeling like the feeling of holding lead that was made for a 2,000-pound horse and then with your own bare hands bending it, doing it with mind power, some muscle, some movement, but all of it representing secrets to achieving anything in life. Oh my God, Rex, we need to do this again.
I was thinking the very same thing. We got a lot that we could go through over and over again, and we'll do it again and again.
Thank you. I'm exhilarated with this. This is a great opportunity to talk to different people and about different things. I didn't know we would talk about all these things, and I didn't know, as much as I've known you since the last century, these other aspects of you as a boxer and magician and your acting. And I'm going to come to the Stinking Rose, and we're going to fill ourselves with garlic martinis or something and tell stories to each other.
I juice garlic. I mean, I have carrot juice and I juice cloves of garlic and ginger and drink that stuff down. I love it. I'm right there with you with the garlic. I love it. So, very, very awesome. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and for being here today with the Los Angeles Tribune. I want to remind our viewers before Joe leaves us for today to go ahead and share the show, like the show, comment. I don't know if I don't know. I've never asked this before, but I'm going to ask, and I should have done this for every show, is just if we can save the chat. And I don't know if that's possible or not. But at any rate, it is beautiful having spent this time with you. And I hope that the people who are watching both live and in replay will push this out there in every way, shape, or form, especially because I know that they're going to take away something from it. And if they take away and they feel fed, then go ahead and help feed other people. And you got Joe Vitale, you got 80 books, you got his TV show, which is
ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com.
I was hoping they were going to scroll that right there.
I don't see it, but I'll just say
here it is.
ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com every Friday.
And so you'll have a show tomorrow.
I will. And I'm interviewing Rex coming up soon. So go to ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. Sign up to be alerted when the new shows are posted. And one will be with Rex. And I'm going to find out his secrets.
I love you. I love you, my man. Thank you. I think I never said my man in my entire life until just now.
I love it. I love it.
I do
Greatly enjoyed it. Thanks for the opportunity to Tribune, Rex, everybody, our helpers behind the scenes. Thank you all.
Joe, thank you. Stay put. I got to close out the show, and we'll be see you in just a couple seconds. All right. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Mr. Joe Vitale, Dr. Joe Vitale, for being here today. And thank you for watching and being a part of the show and leaving comments and for your participation in liking, commenting, and sharing the show. As you know, I always say, if you consider a thing a problem, it's a problem. If you consider it a blessing, it's a blessing. And I have a book for you. One of my books is Life on Your Terms, Create the Life You Want. And the reason why I bring that up now at the end of the show, and I think they'll put that up in a second, but is because, well, there it is. I'm also giving away a free bonus online training. The training is valued at $497. It's something I've been teaching for a long, long time called the Mastery Loop. And it's how you master your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors to get the kind of results that you'd like to get in your life. And Dr. Joe Vitale, in fact, is right there. Eye-opening and empowering is on the book. When he was kind enough to give me a quote on the book, having read the galley copy, and so we included it right there on the cover. I forgot to mention that, but thank you, Joe. And so I'm giving the Mastery Loop to people who have purchased the book at Amazon. You go to that website right there, rexsikes.com/book. Take your receipt code from Amazon, pop it in there, follow the instructions, and I'll give you a $497 bonus training on how you master things and how you learn using your whole brain, accelerated learning, and how you recapture the joy of living so that you can live the kind of life that you deserve to live. So again, if you consider everything a blessing, everything is a blessing. I'm Rex Sikes. I'll see you the next time. And with that in mind, celebrate everything.